Hello guys, let me know once my screen is visible to you all and then my voice is audible to you. Then we get started about today's topic, which is related to the OOPS concept and the construction or the automation perspective thing. Hello guys, I can read your chat section as well. If you face any challenges, just let me know. So the topic here for today is the OOPS concept, where we are dealing with the topic which is required for Selenium automation sort of thing, and what kind of knowledge that you need to have for automation perspective before moving on to the Selenium or the rest assured. And what are the use of the constructor that we are going to tell us with the page object model logic, and we are trying to understand these two topics for which is necessary for your automation sort of thing. So in the OOPS concept, there are concepts that needs to have a knowledge here when you are dealing with an automation. Are there are six topics that is necessary, or that is you should have an idea before moving on to the all of the sudden things. So first is class and their object. So let's deal with this classes and object, and then we'll move to the encapsulation and then inheritance. Then we will cover the polymorphism with the compile time with the runtime. Then we are going to start with the abstraction and then interfaces. So these are the six topics that we need to cover inside that part. So once we have done with these, then we will cover what is constructor. So we will discuss what is constructor and what are the key points types of constructor. There is topic which is known as constructor chaining, which is not necessary for you to knowledge about it because of the automation perspective. So I'm skipping that part only. So let's discuss only the OOPS concept and the constructor which is necessary for you being an automation tester. So first question is, what is class and the object? So basically, class is a blueprint. Simply means it's kind of a 3D structure. Let's say you are building a home, so they will provide you a 3D structure. Means architecture will provide you a graph form. Means a blueprint that how your things will look like. The same thing we have associated with the class. So whenever we are starting building on those, or means we are utilizing that blueprint in our code is done by the object, which is known as instance of the class. So this is the main difference between class and object. So class is basically an imaginary thing, like we have an animal. So animal is a class, and there are sub distributions like object is being created. For example, human is an animal. Similarly, dog is an animal. Cat is an animal. So these all are the object, or you can say instance of that classes. So we will discuss with this the approach that we are going with in our automation perspective only. We are not covering the other perspective that it is necessary, or that you should have an idea, because you are majorly involved in automation. So these lectures is all about the automations, what type of Java knowledge that you should possess in that part. So the concept is classes and objects. So we are going to check how we can create a class which is a blueprint, and then we will discuss how we create an object on those classes and utilize those the blueprint whatever we have described in the class using an object. So let's try to do the same with the coding logic. So as you already know, we are using IntelliJ for our coding part. So there is a package, let's say create for today. So we have moved with the lecture number 7. So I will be creating one package which name as lecture number 7, and inside that we can create a multiple classes. So the class first here, let's create a browser class. You can see this is known as class. The class has a potential thing. It started from the capital letter. This is the naming convention generally people used to do have during, and you can say in class level itself only. So let's create some reference variables, or you can say the variables that is necessary inside that class, and then we will be creating some function as well. So let's create one variable, let's say it's browser name, and we will provide the value as Chrome. So this is the you can say variable I have created, which name is browser name. Similarly, let's create one function, public void browser launch. So this is I have created one function. So inside that I'm just printing the value and utilizing this browser name. So launching browser of type as this. So this is what I am trying to do. I have created a blueprint, which is means a class. Inside that class, there are two things. First is the action that we are trying to do. This is known as action, or you can say methods. And then these are the variables that we are assigning on this blueprint. So we can use this variables or the functions using a ref object, which is an instance of that class. So let's make one class, make it as test runner, and inside that we are creating a main method. For any object creation on the class, we first need to define the class name, the object name, whatever I want. Let's say I will call that browser obj, and then the constructor on that part. This is how we are creating an instance of a class. That simply means object of a class, and that object is known as this. Its browser obj is an object of that class. Using this, we can call the variables inside of those and also the function that we are has associated with the class. So browser obj can help us to call the browser name and also browser launch. So let's using this, we are calling this browser launch function. So automatically this function will get printed, and in the end output, just give me one second. Sorry for I'm catching a cold since yesterday, so sorry for the disturbance of that part. So let's try to execute the same and check the result. You can see we have, using the object on that class, we have called the function. Means this is known as browser instance calling, or simply means using an object we are calling a function that has been associated with one of the class. So this is known as browser, or you can say class and their associated object. So first we have covered how we can create a class and how we can create an object, and using that object we can call their associated variables or the functions. Right now we have only called the function. So instead of that, we can also call variables as well. So this is the variable. Okay. So let's try to print the value on that variable as well. So we can do that as well. So this is how we can call using an object and then whatever the variable I have. This is the variable I am calling. So we have assigned the value Chrome. So it will just print a Chrome output. You can see Chrome is being printed here. So this is the simplest program or simplest way we can create a class and the associated object. You know, this is the main thing that you need to know before moving into automation perspective thing. Then after class and object, we will move to the one of the enhancement thing, which is known as encapsulation. So the encapsulation means binding data and their methods together. That simply means whatever the variables I have created, like this I have created one variable, and this is the function that I have created against the same. You can see using, and we wants to all those variables, or that simply means the data we have, the variables is known as data, and using the method we can access those private variables. So this is known as encapsulation. Means we have encapsulate, means we have created one capsule in that there are data is present, and also you we can call those data with the help of methods, or that simply means actions. So those methods, or by calling or things, is known as getter setter method. So getter means we are getting those variables, and setter means we are setting the value on those variables. So this is the main difference between getter and a setter method. So we can directly create a variables, or directly create a getter and setter method after creating variables inside the class. So let's do that using an IntelliJ, and we will get to know that. So let's create one class. Let's say encapsulated class. Yes. So I have created this class. So inside that class, let's create some variables. Let's make it as name, and inside that, let's make it as age. So in the encapsulation, these are the private variables. Means we cannot directly use this variable outside this class. So we need to have some methods, and using those methods, these data can be accessible only. So how we can do that? Just right click, select the variables whom you want to create a getter setter method. Right click on it, go to generate, which means alt and insert, and then you will see getter and setter method. After clicking on this, select the variables and click on OK. You can see the functions has been created against the same. Let's make it order in the perfect way. You can see I have created two variables. There are two methods has been generated. By using getAge, we are getting that variable. Similarly, by using setAge and providing the parameter, we are assigning this age with that whatever the variable we have provided this. So similarly, like we have in a getName. So getName is used to return the string, and similarly setName is used to provide the value to that variable. So this is known as encapsulation. And how we can now create and assign the values on these variables. So let's create our class. Let's we already have created one class which is known as test runner. So let's use the same again. So you can see if I want to use these variables, use these functions. So we need to create a reference variable of that class. So same logic I'm going to implement it here. So this is the class. Let's make it a variable as obj new constructor. This is how we have created a variable. So using obj we can call getAge, setAge, getName, and setName. We cannot call these. Why? Because both are the private function and we have calling those in a different class. So that's why if I try to do that, let's say obj dot, you can see there is only four functions is accessible using this. The variables like this name and age is not accessible. If I make it as in private, let's say I have make it at in private, you can see now I'm able to access those variables. So encapsulation, we are making the variables as static and using the methods only, or that simply means using the getter and setter method only, we are able to access those. So this is the main difference between class and their objective and how we can use those into generate an encapsulated class. So let's use those methods and try to set the name. Let's say name is learn testing by AD. So this is the object I have created and assign the name of that. Similarly, let assign a age. So age will be, let's say, 30. So I have assigned name as this value and age as 30 value. So if I want to print the value, how we can do that? We can use getAge and similarly getName function. Let's try to print the value using the same. So system out to print the value. Let's say name of variable is, and how we can use that, obj dot, I want to get the name, so the function should be I use a get name. Similarly, if I want to print uh, age of variable is, and how we can do that, obj dot get age. By using these functions, we are calling those variables whatever the value we have assigned the same. Let's try to print the value and check if that the variables I have assigned has been working fine or not. You can see the name of variable is had been assigned with this name. Similarly, variable age has been assigned with 30 value. So this is known as encapsulation. I hope you are able to understand the key concept between encapsulation. In the automation perspective, we are going to use this logic a lot of time. We are creating some you can say private web elements on the web on the as page object classes, and we will create a generic methods, and using those we are calling those variables whatever the elements we have got. So this is the generalized way we are doing in the page object model in the real time. We will cover this few minutes as well. Let bother not bother much about it. You just need to understand what we have gone so far. I hope you are able to understand the logic. Just drop a note in the chat section if you are good to go with the topic we have covered so far. So let's move on to the third concept is the associated with the oops. Third concept is known as inheritance. As the name suggests, inheritance means when we are have a property, that property can be anything, for example the methods, for example the variables. So these things we have taken from the parent to the child, like you have my father has some properties, so I will inherit those property from my own. So this is the ownership, means I can use those property whatever my father had built up to me. So same thing has been associated with the oops concept as well. Whatever the variables, whatever the functions that has provided in the base class, means the parent class, the child class has able to access those variables and access those functions as well. So let's key understand on these point, and we will move to the programming logic on those parts. So the key concept here is one class can inherit properties and the behavior of another class using a keyword. There are two different keywords. First is extends and second is implements. We will learn about the implement later on. Let's focus on the extends only. So when so class A extends B, this simply means B is a parent class and A is a child class. Means whatever the function inside of me, let's say there are three methods and two variables has been associated with the B class. So same methods and variable will come along in the A class as well, and inside A we can also create new variables as well. So new variables creation, similarly new actions or method can be created. So this is known as inheritance. So let's check with the program and understanding the more logic about it. So let's use the concept of the inheritance. You can see I have one class. Let's make it as like, so I have one class which is known as browser, and inside that you can see I have a variable which is known as browser name. Similarly, I have a function which is browser launch. So we can create a class. Let's say I have created a class login page. And now this login page is extending the browser class. That simply means using the reference variable of login page, I can access these as well. So this can be achieved using extend keyword. So now this login page indirectly basis have these variables and these functions as well. So we can indirectly basis what I'm trying to say inside that. This is how the login page pre-built now. It has the browser name, it has the browser launches. So whatever the function new can method can be also implemented. Let's say I have implemented one more method inside this. So I will make it as setup login page. So instead of this, let's print it at login page implemented. So I have created one more function inside that login page, which is setup login page. And in this setup login page, I directly call this browser launch as well. This can also be true. See, with there is no such error is being thrown because indirectly basis it this function is already being present because of the inheritance logic. So if I call this browser launch, that simply means it is navigating to this function. So first it will print the launching browser of this type, which is Chrome. Then it will print this line. So if I call this setup login page using an object, so let's create a login page object, make it as login page obj. Login page constructor has been created. Now this login page is able to access this, is able to access this, similarly is able to access this. So let's call this setup login page only and try to check the output of that part. So you can see These things can be seen whenever I create a reference variable. So let's call the setup login page. Whatever it will call the browser launch first. This is happening. Then it will execute this line. So this is the output of the program we need to understand. So launching browser has been done. Similarly, login page has been implemented. By this logic, you have seen we have reduced a line of code. For example, in real time, uh, in the real time perspective, let's say I have new variables we have defined. This is we have defined, okay. And similarly, I have defined one more variables. So these variables can automatically be provided here. Simply means we don't need to create a reference variable on that again. We can directly use those variables. By this logic, we are going to use in the cucumber logic in the Selenium. We are not creating a reference variable in the steps class. We are just extending the base class itself only directly. These variables or these functions will came along with that. So this is the real time usage of a extended base class that we have seen so far in the inheritance concept. So this is the example I have taught you about it, where we have created one class where we have set it up browsers, and then we have created one class which is inherited the property, similarly calling that directly without need to creating inside again in the login test. And that's all for the inheritance concept. Now we will move to another topic which is known as polymorphism. So the polymorphism here depends upon the two factors. First is a compile time and the runtime. In the real time, we are going to use compile time a lot of time, and similarly, some of time we are going to use in the runtime as well. So the compile time means whenever the functions we are creating, we just make a changes in the parameterization way, or we can change the value in the return time. So let's understand more about the concept using an example. So you can see I have created a one function which now names that login page. So we can, this is a single, there's a no argument say, or you can say parameter. Parameter means the parenthesis inside of that word. There is no such data present, so this is known as no argument function. So let's create one more function with the same name. You can see I have assigned the same name. We just making a change in the parameter. So let's say I have changed the parameter string username. This is known as compile time, means the method overloading. We are same name but different parameter is being used. So let's print the username as well. Login page implemented with username as. So this is what I'm just printing. So this is known as one argument or one parameterized constructor because we have one parameterization inside that. So similarly, we can create one more as well. Let's make it as int age. So uh, we can print that as well. Let's say age is, so we can, this is known as method overloading. And whenever whatever the parameter I will provide, that function will get automatically called. So this logic is being implemented in automation in very perspective. Let's say we have different approaches. We can click on the web element. We can directly click using a function. We can use a JavaScript executor as well. So we can create two different functions which perform a same action like click, but we need approach is being changed here. So same logic can be associated with it, same function, but inside that the logic has been changed. So this is known as polymorphism, which is a compile time polymorphism. I hope you are able to understand so far whatever we have been covered so far. So let's uh, call one by one to those functions. So let's say I have directly calling this setup login page. That simply means it will call without parameterized function, means this line will be called. So the output here, first it will go the browser launch, means this line will print, then it will print this line. So let's check if that is printing or not. You can see launching browser and then login page implemented, which is this method. So if I make a change and provide an one parameterization, means I have provided a string username. So it will call this method, not this method now. So it will print like this, login page implemented with the username as whatever the value we have provided. I have provided Ajay. So in the directly basis, username act as a Ajay. So let's try to print the value, whatever. Can you own light mode? I don't like light mode on IntelliJ. Let me check that is suitable. I haven't used the light mode. So team appearance, let's say, I don't think so. This is a good way. Let me know, guys, if this lighter version is suitable to you, or still black version is better. You can drop a note into the chat section. Okay. So darker mode is it? Okay, we will back to the darker mode then. So this is how the darker modes look like. You can see I have been calling this Ajay function. So means this function is will not work. This function will not work because it is a single argument I have been provided. So if I provide one more argument, let's say I have provided age as 40. So it will go with the second two parameterized function, means like this. You can see it is now printing with this age 40, which is a this function. So this is known as compile time polymorphism, where the same function name is has been associated, but different parameter can be assigned. And similarly, we can change one more thing. Instead of, let's say, I have created one more function with this. Now we are returning a string. See, let's say I have returned one string, return ABC. You can see already defined because this is not acceptable. Just an FYI, this is how it's an interview question. You should know that if I make a changes in the um, return type, does it work? No, it will throw us an error. So we should have the parameterization changes. So I hope you are able to get this interview question. So let's move on to the another polymorphism. So next polymorphism came here is runtime polymorphism, where we are overriding a method. So what does the overriding means? So the overriding means, like we have seen here, if the class A extends B, simply means B is a parent class and A is a child class. Means there are three methods defined. Let's say there are two variables has been defined. So A has a child class, means these method and these variables came along with that part. If the same method I have created, let's say one of the method name is ABC. So this is the function inside a parent class. If I again create a same name, same function, same return type, this is known as overriding. I have overridden the already existing function inside a child class. So now if I call this ABC, it will not call the parent one, it will call the child one only. So this is the known as method overriding. So let's understand with one of the program. So let's delete this one. And as you can see, there is one function which is known as browser launch, right? So if I right now I have extended the browser, so indirectly basis, this is how the login page in look like, right? It already have the browser name, it already have the browser launch. Now As a overriding method, I have created the same function but changes the implementation. So changes the implementation means the line of code has been changed. Means insertion of child class function. So if I call this browser launch using a object of login page, then it will not call this browser launch. It will call the child one, because overridden method will always call whenever we are doing the same. You can see insertion of child class function is being called, not this one. This is known as method overriding. So in the real time perspective, we generally don't do overriding in automation perspective. We generally focus on the method overloading. We are focusing on how we can create a same function name, but only changing the parameter will involve into that part. Like when we cover in the Selenium, there is a class which is not select class. By providing a different input, like select by visible text, select by index. So one of we will provide two different elements. First is web element and second is what type of value, like string the visible text, integer the index. So same name, by selecting a drop down I will create a functions. Means let's understand with some example as well in method overloading. So I will create selection drop down. So this is the function I have created. Web element, let's say I have created one e, and similarly string visible text. So this is the function I have created. Similarly, for same name, instead of string I will be provide a index now. So this is how the overloading in real time will be used in the automation perspective. So that's all for inheritance and the polymorphism logic about it. So let's try to, you will do from your own and check the value. Let's move on to the fifth point, which is known as abstraction. So abstraction, generally in automation, you don't have needs to know about it, but in interview perspective, people generally ask you what is difference between encapsulation and abstraction. So this is a generic interview question that you need to have. In the encapsulation, you will create a, simply means you will bound the variables and the function using a setter getter method. But in abstraction, you are completely simply in sense way hiding those element and only use the using the essential features. Means there are two approaches by which we can provide abstraction. First is abstract class and second is interface. Abstract class are those class in which we are not defining any reference variables, or that simply means we are not providing a path, or you can say code in a class on those functions. So let's understand with example for better knowledge about it. As you have seen, this is the login page class. If I make this a function inside a function, let's say I have defined login test. This is the function I have defined. So this is the code that I have implemented. If I, instead of this, I will make like this. So this is known as abstract. So I need to add the body. This is saying it is a missing body is being done. So in the abstract class, this is how we are creating a functions inside a abstract class. So let's create one class with the abstract one. Abstract test. So using abstract keyword, we have created an abstract class. And now this abstract class can have abstract function as well. So let's say public void click. This is the function I have created. And now after adding abstract, you can see compiler error has been gone. Without declaring any body, this is acceptable by the compiler. Similarly, let's create one more function. Let's say uh, text edit. So I have created two different functions. So whenever some class that is extending this abstract class he needs to define the body of these functions. Means, let's say this is the login page class, right? And now instead of the browser class, let's make it as extends abstract test. So you can see the exception has been thrown here. You need to see, it will say you need to implement those overridden method that was present on the abstract class. There are two methods like click and text edit. These method needs to be overridden. Then only you can see these function has been done. Click on OK. Automatically the implemented overriding method has been done. So you need to define the body. Login, click, method. Similarly, I have defined one more path in that in text edit. Text edit method. So if I want to call those, then only we are using this obj dot see. These function can be called now. Similarly, login page dot text edit can be called. See, the output on this function has been done. This is known as abstraction. Using abstract keyword, we have created a classes and we have created variables, also simple functions that doesn't have any body. So whenever some child class has been extended, using this, you can see we have achieved the uh, data precisency. Simply means the things or the data has been saved in a simple way. We are hiding the implementation details. The implementation was done inside the extended class only. So this is not an abstract. Similarly, the interface comes up along. Interface are similar kind of a abstract class, but there is a more approach into that part. We don't need to define the abstract keyword. We are defining your interface. So let's create one interface to understand that point. So this is the interface. I have created the interface as int name. So public void test. So you can see I have created one function like this, and you can see this is not acceptable here. So we just need to define the tag. And whenever interface needs to be provided into subclasses, then there is a keyword like we did in the class. There is an extend keyword is present. So instead of this, we have a keyword which is known as implements. Using a implement method, we are implementing the interface. So this is the interface I have implemented. You can see now again it will throwing us the implemented method that you need to do whatever inside the interface. This is the method. So we need to define the functions, means define the body of that function inside the implemented class. So this is implemented function of interface in child class. So let's print the test function only. So it will print the value. You can see this is how the abstraction or interface looks like. That's all for the complete knowledge that you should have an idea for oops logic when you are dealing with automation thing. You need to know how the class or object created, encapsulation can be done, inheritance, how we are achieving the same, compile time, what is the compile time, abstraction interfaces. You should have an idea for interview only. Don't go much about it. So now we have one thing that we have associated with the interface. So you have seen I have created one interface which is known as NT. Let's say I have created a new. You can see this is not acceptable. We cannot create instance of a interface. We need to create a instance of a child class whoever implemented. So only login page reference variable can be created. This can be done. So same ideology is being implemented in automation. What is the implementation in the ideology in automation? WebDriver is an interface, and their child is Chrome driver, Gecko driver, Firefox driver. Same ideology. We needs to define the WebDriver object like this, and using this how we are. Chrome driver instance means Chrome driver is a class that implement the interface of a WebDriver. So this is how we are dealing in automation when we are declaring. We are creating a reference variable of driver, and we are initiating whatever we want. If we want to open the Chrome driver, then we are using new Chrome driver. If I wants to run the on the Gecko driver, then we are using a Gecko driver. If I wants to run on the Firefox driver, we are run the Firefox driver. By using interface reference variable, we can create any number of instances of the implemented child class. So this is how the real-time WebDriver and interfaces in the automation perspective looks like. Now we will move to one more things, which is known as building a real-time example. So it's I will just explain you how the framework level things was associated with the automation thing. So the first is encapsulations. Encapsulation means page layer, like setter getter method. Inheritance means testing a layer where the base class has a parent class, and we have test class have extended the base test. This is how the in frameworks look like. Abstraction generally we have used for driver configurations, all of those things. And interfaces like we have done in the WebDriver instance, using a WebDriver instance that I have just shown you. Polymorphism, like we have seen, logic, method adding, overloading, like selection drop down, clicking can be done in multiple ways. Similarly, these kind of things has been used in the polymorphism. So, before moving on to the bonus idea and the real example of the Selenium page object model, I have created one class which is known as login page. You can see I have created one variable which is known as WebDriver. This is known as constructor. So before moving on to this actual logic on the Selenium page object model, so let's understand what is the constructor is all about. So that you should have an idea before moving on to the real-time example of the page object model. How we can do that? So let's understand what is constructor, and we will discuss how many types of constructor we have, and then we are going to use those to implement the Selenium page object model associated class. So let's understand the logic behind it. I hope you are able to understand so far. Just drop a note into that chat sections. If everything looks good to you, then we can start with our topic of the constructor itself only. I'm waiting for 1 minute, then we get started. So the topic here is what is constructor. The constructor simply means it's kind of a special method that are used to initiate some objects. Like we have seen, we have created a objects. Like this is the object I have created for initiating a reference variable. If you can see this login page function is not present in this right now, but uh, so constructor came handy. So if indirectly basis, I don't create a constructor from our own, Java will implement their own. If I do that, it will override that function. Means this is how the constructors look like. So there is no such need to define, or you can say there are some key points in the constructor that you should have an idea. So the key points will be doing the same value. The constructor name must matches the class name. So this is the logic behind, you can say, constructor itself only. So let's do that and understand the logic. So let's remove the unnecessary. classes that we have created. So you can see I have a login page class now. So first, let's go with each key points line by line. The first key point here, constructor name matches the class name. Means if I call that this is the class name login page, so constructor is a method first point. So this is how we are declaring the method. It has no return type, so we don't need to define return type, whether it's a void, whether it's a string, whether it's a integer, whether it's a web element, whether it's a web driver, whether it's a string, whatever the value, it cannot have any value and can be parameterized. Parameterized means this is a no argument constructor, or simply means no parameterized constructor, right? Because it is not just defining value. If I make like this, means it's a single parameterized constructor. If I make like this, it's a two parameterized constructor, correct? So this is can be done in the constructor level as well. Now used to initiate variable object when the object is created, means whenever I create a login page, obj is equal to new, like this, automatically this function gets called up. You can see it get highlighted. So this is known as key points about a constructor. So let's understand with some logic here. So let's create some data. This is a known param constructor. So as you can see, if I haven't called any function, you can see I have only created a new reference variable, means object has been created, means instance of a class is being initiated. That's what I have done so far. So let's check the output on the program. You can see this is a non-parameterized constructor. This function gets auto called. So this is how we are using in automation perspective. When we are, I will be teaching you why we have done so far. So this is known as constructor, or this is known as default constructor, where we have no argument associated with it. Let's say I have added some arguments, means this is known as second type of constructor, which is known as parameterized constructor. So let's do with that. So same name, already know. We just need to make a change in the parameterization. So let's say this is the constructor. This is a one param constructor with value as name. Okay. If I call this login page, then it will call this. If I provide the type, let's say I have provided the string at Ajay Daya is a educator at GFG. So it will print this. It will call this method, not this constructor. So this is known as parameterized constructor. You can see this is how it displays. And this is thing we already know about it. What is this known as polymorphism? Because we have a same name function, but the change in the parameter only. So we have overloaded a constructor. So this is known as constructor overloading. Multiple constructor with a different parameter list is known as constructor overloading. So we have understand parameterization in a single way. Similarly, we have understand the constructor overloading. If I remove this, let's say I have removed this, there is only one constructor is being present, means only second type I have chosen. Or before that I have chosen a default. Now if I run this again, you can see it will print this. If I remove this, does it throw? You can see the error is being thrown to you, because it will showing you the constructor you have defined has been parameterized. So if I make this, you can see error has been gone. Now it will navigate to this function, non-parameterized function, and it will print you the non-parameterized output. So this is known as three different types of constructor. Means we don't need to create a we don't need to do any return type. We just need to create an instance. Automatically it get called. So this is the use of you can say constructor itself only. So let's move on to the use real time usage in automation perspective, and how the this logic has been associated with it. So let's say I have a login page class, right? Let's declare some variables. Let's say I have declared a name as a variable. Okay. So now login page have this string name. This dot name is equal to name. This is what I have chosen. If I call the login page as Ajay, this Ajay has been assigned to the variable that I have created inside a login page. Without creating anything, we have assigned the value in a name automatically. This is how a real-time automation perspective look like. Instead of string, we generally do WebDriver here. Similarly, WebDriver here. The name of the WebDriver is like this, driver, and this is driver, and this is driver. And instead of WebDriver, we are providing a reference variable of driver. Let's say I have created a one WebDriver is equal to new clone driver like this, and this is the driver I have initiated. Now this login page will navigate to this function. This is how we have provided a web page or the Chrome browser, the things that we are trying to automate or on the execution path. The every page have access to the those web driver, and inside that we can create a functions. Let's say we can create multiple web elements. So this is how we can achieve the web elements. So I hope you don't know about how we can find the web elements expert technique. That is a later on topic, so when we cover the Selenium. So far we just need to know this is how the constructor in Selenium in page object model look like, and by using this we can call this login method. So that's all, guys, for today's lecture. And there are some questions that I needs to ask you. You just need to drop a note into the chat section. First is, can a class have a multiple constructor? Yes, it can. So this is the interview question that people generally ask. Second question is, what happens if no constructor is defined? So Java provides a default constructor automatic. You don't need to do again against it like we did in this. If I don't do this, automatically Java has, you can see there is no such error is being thrown here because I don't provide anything. Java automatically, whenever the class gets created, automatically create a constructor from their own. So that's all for today's, guys. Let's meet on tomorrow on the same timing where we are discussing about the next topic we have. So hustle, guys, and try to learn from your own and go with the good flow. Bye bye till we meet tomorrow.